Well, hello and welcome back. In today's edition of Let's Hang with the Gang in the Pastures, thought I'd tell a tale around guinea fowl. Guinea fowl were actually the first birds to grace farm version 1.0, and I'm really hoping the donkeys stay out there rather than come running in for attention, because I'll never get through the story. But guinea fowl. So farm version 1.0 did have some neighbors where property was touching. We didn't have the same setup that we do here in version 2.0, where there's pretty clear woodland boundaries that keep our property very separate from the neighbor's property, keep our animals very separate from the neighbor's properties. There was a little bit more yard touching, so to speak. And so we decided, we were new to the area, new to farming, and of course being outside as much as we were getting ticks and more ticks and lots of ticks. And we did tick checks every day. We still do to this day, but we were pulling them off of each other pretty regularly. The dogs, of course, were treated. The cats at that point were all indoor. We didn't have outdoor cats at that version farm. And donkeys, sheep, goats, pigs, none of them are susceptible in the same way. So it was really us. Guinea fowl are amazing birds, and they're complete and total tick eaters. They're tick decimators, right? Like, they can clear your property of ticks in a heartbeat, and they'll do it without ever disturbing a blade of grass, which is amazing. So after doing our research on guinea fowl, we said, that's the bird we want, right? They're kind of cool looking, they're a little unusual, they have a purpose, they serve a purpose, and we really wanted to introduce them to the area. But guinea fowl are loud, and certainly with them being loud, we didn't want to introduce them without talking to our neighbors first. Hi, girlfriend. You've got snoots and sort of dusty mud baths. So we talked to the neighbors, and we actually got their permission first and foremost from all our surrounding neighbors to bring in 6 guinea fowl. And everything went wonderful. In fact, at one point in time, about 6 months or so after we had the guinea fowl and we were reporting success with not coming in with ticks and not having any problems, one of our neighbors actually started to complain that their property was overrun, and when are the guinea fowl going to go visit their property and clear it of ticks? And we didn't have a fence line between our property, so in theory, the guinea fowl could go there, but we had worked with them as youngsters to try and establish that our property was their home and they shouldn't go wandering. Guinea fowl are a little bit like peacocks in the sense that they will wander off and wander pretty far. So it didn't take more than another couple of weeks before the guinea fowl did indeed decide that the neighbor's property looked just as wonderful as ours, and they would wander over there and spend the day. And that was great. Everything was fabulous. Nobody complained about noise, even though they were loud, talkative birds, very similar to the turkey, but with a different pitch and a bit more annoying. But it was good. Life was good. Unfortunately, I'm going to say maybe it was 2 months later. It might not have been even quite that long. I had a knock on the door. And it was my neighbor, and they were angry, is the only way I can describe it. And there was no hello. This was, from somebody we were not only cordial with, but we actually shared, barbecues and meals and broke bread and spent nights, evenings together, hanging out. But there was no hello, there was no nothing. It was a demand. Those birds have to go right now. Okay. So what had become, at first a really pleasant benefit that everybody had signed off on in terms of tick control, and of course we had, all the costs and management responsibilities, suddenly was a nuisance because they pooped. And, well, yeah, that's true. Birds poop. And they poop anywhere they want to poop, wherever they may be at the moment. So Anyway, to keep the peace, of course, the next thing we did was confine the guinea fowl, and we built a giant run for them that was covered so that they couldn't fly up and that they couldn't leave, right? So we did build a run for them and kept them in the run. But frankly, they weren't happy. They really were just not happy, right? Guinea fowl are designed to run free. They're designed, that's their purpose. And while we wanted them to stay on our property, because our property didn't have boundaries that were clear, getting them to stay required us to completely and totally fence them in, which was not what they needed and or wanted. So we did end up having to rehome them, and I drove like a fool. I'm so silly sometimes, but I drove 2.5 hours out into central PA to a 100-acre farm that already had guinea fowl where they could join a flock. Sorry about the dog. Tonka, stop. They could join a flock and be a part of a bigger flock on a bigger piece of property and stop being a nuisance because, certainly we didn't want to be bad neighbors. That was sort of the early signal that maybe farm version 1.0 was not going to be the farm forever. I don't think we certainly didn't recognize it at the time, but we probably should have before we continued to build it up and add things. So I'm going to stop it there. Thought I'd just share the guinea fowl that never made it to farm version 2.0, unfortunately. One day maybe I'll get them back, but for now we've got plenty of birds. And I will talk to you at the next one. Apologies again for the dog who decided to chime in at the last second. He's still learning. He's trying real hard to control himself, but he can't. Anyway, I hope you're having a fabulous day. I hope you're having a better day than the weather is right now. It's a little overcast. And I will talk to you at the next one. If you enjoyed this, drop a comment, like it, subscribe to my channel. Every little bit helps, and I really do appreciate every last one of you that watch this. Thank you, and have a great one. Bye.